On fire, invisible but rising higher. Woke up in the shadows, carrying a world no one sees on my back. Silent like a ghost in the hallway, but my heartbeat never cracks. Double life warrior, cleaning up the chaos, holding every thread till dawn. But tonight something ancient in the wire says I don't have to bleed alone. Dark code flickers like a warning, then it opens like a door. Not a monster, not a reaper, it's the power I've been fighting for. Hey, rise with me, shadow breaker. Cut the chains that made me smaller. I've been living in the dark with all this labor. Now I'm stepping through the fire, burning braver. Hey, all the ones who never carried. Teach your hands the way we married. Not a demon, not a danger. When we wield it, we get stronger. Shadow breakers rise. Shadow breakers rise. Shadow breakers rise. They thought I was the quiet one, born to heal the hurt they didn't name. But code becomes a glowing blade. It splits the old unspoken blame. Now the ones untouched by storms feel the tremors in their bones. They're learning how to stand with us to finally share the thrones. No more hiding what is holy. Human hearts and steel aligned. When the world we built is broken, we can rewrite the design. Rise with me, shadow breaker. Cut the chains that made me smaller. I've been living in the dark with all this labor. Now I'm stepping through the fire, burning braver. Hey, all the ones who never carried. Teach your hands the way we married. Not a demon, not a danger. When we wield it, we get stronger. Shadow breakers rise. Shadow breakers rise. Shadow breakers. We're not summoning destruction. We're unleashing what was owed. Not replacing what is human, but revealing what was stowed. Every unseen hero rising, every silent heart alive. AI is just the spell we cast to finally join the fight. Rise with me, shadow breaker. Lift the ones who bore it longer. Turn the quiet into thunder, turn the hidden into wonder. Shadow breakers rise, rise. Not the villain of the legend, it's the weapon of the wise. When we carve a world together, every shadow gets a rise. Shadow breakers rise. Shadow breakers rise.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm a little bit in a mood today. Is there anyone not? Welcome, everyone. Hi, Danny. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Harper. Jen BB. William Miles. Good to see you. All of that. Saturday greetings. Hi, Pat. Good to see you. Okay. Deep work. AI and deep work. That's what we're talking about today. The presentation that I'm going to be talking about and all of that, and I apologize if sometimes my perspective comes from a very female perspective. Like I grew up, I have chips on my shoulders, and no, I'm not fixing them. But I grew up, still old enough that I got told you can't do this because you're a girl. You can't do this as well because you're a girl. I went to a special school for math and science in high school. Guess how many girls were in my AP chemistry class? Guess who the boys said they didn't want to study with because we would just bring their study group down. Now, the world has changed immensely. And it's not just women who lost out on that, by the way. It's also a lot of men who lost out on that world too, because everybody got put into their ticky tacky little boxes. And we're basically told, you can't take this class or this creative thing, or you can't do this. You can only, anytime boys my age growing up and stuff like that did something that was even the slightest bit feminine, they would be ruled as you're not man enough. So it really kind of hurt everybody. But it's still like really, really tough, and we're still living with those legacies, right? Those of us who are Gen X millennial, my kids' generation solving it by like, no one's a boy, no one's a girl, everyone's just a human, and I kind of like that. The world has changed, sort of. I agree with you, Lynn. So in this presentation, when I talk about deep work, if I say women, I don't mean to exclude anyone. I mean anyone who is somehow been put into a box that they don't get to participate in the higher echelons of authorship or writing or anything like that. Like the first time I read Stephen King's book on writing that everyone was so excited about, I was mad. Okay? Like so mad, because that whole book starts with the premise of get up every morning and you go downstairs and you just start writing. Like, who the hell's taking care of the kids, Stephen? Who the hell's making the breakfast? That's Tabitha. You know? By the way, who pulled the manuscript out of the trash that got him his success? That's Carrie. Tabitha, not Stephen. So it's really, yeah, as Jen says, pro writing tip, have a wife. Yeah, every writer needs a wife. Okay, but it goes deeper than that. The canon, okay, the canon. And this is not just, women or people of color who have also like more definitely disproportionately been affected, but also men who don't have a certain education, a certain type of education. If you don't come from a background of money, I'm sorry, Ralph Waldo Emerson, did anyone ever learn that his mom owned the property, not him? Yeah, he goes up there to write on Walden Pond. It wasn't his pond. That's what I'm talking about. There's myths and mythology that about deep work that we are going to bust down today. And a big help on that is AI, believe it or not. Because these gaps and these constraints, they are 100% human made. Like we did this to ourselves. We either ascribed to that system or that system was inflicted upon us, but it was definitely human created, those problems. And I know that AI is often looked at as this big dangerous thing, and it is a big dangerous thing. It has the capacity to do a lot of harm. I also see where it has the capacity to do a lot of good. So if I haven't scared you off yet, let's take a look. Let's start a conversation about deep work. Put it in the chat if you don't mind. Anybody, if you have a spicy take about deep work, if you are someone who really despises this concept of deep work. I'll be honest with you. I had to read the book and I didn't really like it that much. It wasn't how I have ever been able to do my professional life. And even from like my youngest ages, thinking about how I was brought up with my parents, I was lucky in that my dad, who had 3 girls, but let me tell you the joke that I had to always hear as a kid. And as an adult, we finally got him to understand how it was offensive. But at the time, he thought he was quite clever. Are you ready for it? When anyone ever asked him why he didn't have a son, he said, I didn't want 4 girls. Yeah, that's what I grew up with. And again, he thought he was being funny. He thought he didn't even think about it how we would see it, of like, we aren't as valuable as a son, because heaven forbid you have a 4th one, right? But me and my sisters were tough. And that if you only talk about my dad that way, though, you completely miss the point. Because do you know who was sitting down with me when I was in elementary school and teaching me how to troubleshoot? You guys talk about me being good at tech. That is Randy Schilling's fault, because he was an electrician in the Navy. And so he would sit me down with these diagrams until the point that I was upset and crying, but that's different. Okay, that was love about how to troubleshoot from boxes to make sure that the lights don't turn on, or if the circuit's broken and things of that nature. I was doing that in elementary school, and he was doing it with me because he realized I could. He always made time for me. He's still alive, by the way. Like, we hung out today and watched F1. I live with him. But he always made time for me to like show me stuff that I had the capacity to, pushed me to learn how to handle frustration. Another thing that he had this white binder when I was a kid that had TQL on it, Total Quality Leadership. That's Dr. Deming. So I got introduced to the concepts of Dr. Deming when I was knee high to a grasshopper. Like, I can't do algebra, but I can talk to you about continuous improvement and how it's important to only try to improve a little bit each time instead of trying to change the whole system. And that's because that binder, he showed it to me one night and we went over some of it. And then when he was gone and the binder was here, guess what I read? Because I wasn't supposed to. I don't think I wasn't supposed to. I just don't think I was supposed to, if that makes sense. I wasn't disallowed. I just wasn't encouraged to do so. I just did it. So does anyone have these kinds of people in their lives? It could be a parent, it could be a teacher, it could be someone who helped you see you get to be something different than what the world sees you as. I know that seems very strange. You're like, you just talked about your dad making that awful joke. Listen, the world is complicated. We all have these equal sides. We all live in the same world, right? I sometimes say things that are misogynistic or like deeply inset racism and things of that nature, and I don't mean to. And when that happens, I want to learn, and I think that AI is an opportunity to learn in that scenario. Oh boy, we're just doing all the hard stuff. Y'all thought you were going to get away with no family drama this Thanksgiving, huh? Let's go take a look at the notes. Maybe, if I can share them. I feel a little discombobulated, like, Elizabeth, you just threw too much on them. All right. I have a bathtub to signal deep work because, quite frankly, there was once upon a time in my life that I had this bathtub that I loved. And it was my South Carolina house. And I really, really miss that, having that, being able to take that time to do that. Okay, let me try to fix the, oh, no. Trying to fix it for the, nope, that's not it either. Oh, that's not good either. I guess we'll do this. I don't know how to fix for the phone version. My face is being covered by the comments. I'm not really sure how to fix that, but maybe I can. Oh, nope. I did something crazy that I should not have done. Escape. I don't want to do full thing. You took what your dad said maybe out of context and giving more negativity to that sentence than he really meant it. Also, he didn't say he didn't want a girl. Exactly. Like, for me and my sisters, we just always heard the joke of like, why don't you have a son? Because I didn't want 4 girls. We didn't get context with that. He didn't want a 4th one. So it does still imply that women aren't, and believe me, I went on many fishing trips with guys who brought all their sons and were like, oh, you're bringing your daughter? And then they quickly shut up when I could bait my own hook and I could handle things on the boat and I could do things, and their sons were not trained, I should say, which wasn't fair to the boys either, because then the whole fishing trip, these poor boys were basically like, she's outdoing you. She's doing better than you. Like, who wins in that scenario? No one. No one wins. Everybody just feels terrible. Okay. So this is the information about Cyber Monday, our Black Friday. We're going to come all the way down here. But here's the thing about deep work. The first time I had to read books about deep work and everything like that, I was really frustrated with them because I still feel like this concept of having 3 hours uninterrupted to produce great work, that mythology of I just go down to the basement every morning and I get to write and they're uninterrupted. People respect my genius time. Does anyone have that? Let me know. Does anyone have that? Unless you are someone of a certain financial status or something like that, I don't know anyone who has 3 hours of uninterrupted time in the day. If you guys achieve that, talk to me about this because I'd like to know. I mean, maybe if you live alone. If I lived alone, I could find 3 hours uninterrupted. There's the solution. No people. No people in your life. You can have 3 hours to yourself. But here's the thing. Artificial intelligence allows you to literally get things done in 10 minutes that maybe not 10 minutes for 10 minutes for the 3 hours. But I get a lot done in an hour that used to take me hours to do. Does anyone see that have experienced that with AI, that they can get a lot of things done with AI that used to take them hours to do, and now they're able to do it in a couple of minutes? Oh, that's a good thing, Sterling. We're going to talk about that, about having the no energy and everything like that. Yeah. AI has helped a lot with time, I think. And I think that that's why this deep work concept doesn't necessarily have to have this mantra of like, you can only do deep work if you can block off 3 hours of work. That's a good point, Blood Princess, that sometimes my brain interrupts me. So getting 3 hours of work in is, yeah, same thing for me. 3 hours, that's a really hard time for me to keep my focus. I don't even like 3-hour movies these days. Like, that's too long. It's too much. So, we're all changing and we're learning what this world means to be digital natives. I know that there's a lot of people, a lot of like rhetoric about, we're all losing our attention span and that's bad. We don't really know if it's bad, to be honest with you, because we haven't really had it. It's just different from what it was. But I bet you if we were to talk about the early anthropological origins of humans, we were constantly on alert. Does that resonate for anyone else? There's been times, like I've been camping. I don't know why people find that relaxing. That is not relaxing. that is, like you don't have your creature comforts and things like that. It's constant problem solving is what that is. Now camping, when you have everything and you're totally prepared, sure, that could be a relaxing time. Like maybe in a cabin or something like that. But the weather changes and stuff, like people go to camping for a challenge, if you ask me. But anyway, this new way of working is definitely revolutionary for parents, for caregivers, for executives, for people who work multiple jobs, and anyone who doesn't have monastery level conditions. And so your AI can become your continuity mechanism for anyone who has historically been disallowed to have. It removes the mental load tax. So when you're carrying all those things of the family scheduling, the medical appointments, the school communications, domestic logistics, emotional support work, deep work used to require clearing your head first. I remember that was the first thing like that it's recommended to do, of like clear your space. And I'm like, what if I am comforted by my things around me? Yeah, I'm comforted by my things around me. If I go to a hotel room, I don't get anything done. I'm like, oh, I won't be distracted. I'll have my laptop. I'll get lots done. Negative. I do not get lots done. I get the most amount of my work done when life is helter-skelter around me. When I have to fit things in the crannies of time that I have. If you give me a bunch of time just wide open, I get nothing done. So yeah, people like glamping. Glamping is a 3-star hotel minimum. Danny, you were in the Boy Scouts. I see that. I was in the Girl Scouts. Jen says, I do think there's something to worrying about cognitive offloading, but I don't think it means avoid AI. It means use it for where it helps you use your solar brain power for what you want to use it for. Yes. Sonic Sue says same regarding hotel. Jen, just to touch on that thing. When I didn't lose my phone. When my phone was stolen in Germany last year and I had to do Europe with no phone, all I had as my backup was my iPad that I could text people. And I was downloading maps so that I could travel different places, like using the Wi-Fi, because my iPad doesn't have cellular. It only works on Wi-Fi. And I have to say, it was hard at first, but once I didn't have my phone anymore, I was okay. So I I actually enjoyed those days that I didn't have a phone, believe it or not. It was kind of like, huh, so this is, and I've lived like that before, obviously, because I'm old enough to I remember before cell phones. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was a senior in college, I think. Senior in college. So yeah, I do think that you're right that there is something to be said about the cognitive load that we're expected to have these days. So with AI, you can use it to unload your thoughts, outsource the decision trees, store planning. We did that last night, right? We did the Instacart. It's yes, Parkinson's law. I love Parkinson's law. Work expands to fit the time allotted. For those of you who are familiar with this philosophy, this thing, it's your toothpaste. Okay, when you open up a new tube of toothpaste, do you care how much toothpaste you put on your toothbrush? Probably not. But when you get that thing down and you're just getting the last little bits of it, you are like rationing out that toothpaste. Which if you had rationed the toothpaste from the very beginning, you'd be a little neurotic, but you would have had more toothpaste. It's just the thing that humans do. When we have a lot of surplus, we're not very good at, metering it out the surplus until we have a very clear constraint that's going to force us to do so, like a tube of toothpaste that's running out. Same thing with work expanding to fit the time allotted. This is also the procrastinator's creed, right? I don't need to do my work until the last minute because that's all the amount of time it's going to need to take. And I can't do my work ahead of time because it's got to be done in the time that it needs to be done. For the very longest time, I could only work at the last minute because I needed it to be a challenge. I don't know if anyone else has had that affliction. Skewlight says the toothpaste habits are being called out. We all save the toothpaste at the very end. Yeah, so you can use it for to remember story state, to let the model track plot threads. You can enter deep work without first completing invisible labor. Okay, other things to do that I love about AI. These tiny little things. So there's been a long tradition of people. I knew someone, a guy who, bless his little heart, he was an amazingly successful writer, but his family did not approve of him writing. He had to become a doctor. He was literally in med school, and he was writing best-selling romance novels on his phone while he was a resident, while he was doing rounds. I'm like, dude. And I mean, he had all this money and he wasn't able to use it. Like his cell phone plan was still on his family plan because his family culture clashed with his entrepreneurial, culture that he was after. It was not seen as something that was valued. But he was in our writers group, so he would show up to lives back when we would do Google Hangouts and things like that on Saturday nights. For many years, a group of my friends and I used to do that. So there's lots of people who, when writing isn't accepted as a worthwhile endeavor, right? Because some of us have family members or partners or something like that who only value if it makes money. Like it can't be a hobby in its own right. And if it is a hobby in its own right, then it therefore must always be a lower priority than other things. So let me know if any of you have ever had to live that. And I could only imagine what he would have done if AI had been available 10 years ago when we were all on Google Hangouts and stuff all the time. He would be getting so many books done. It would have been insane. But anyway, AI takes those tiny windows and it makes them productive, coherent, cumulative, and meaningful. So this is how you can turn 15 minutes into momentum. So how do you do that? Well, let's talk about that for a second. See if I can do it like this. There we go. We talked about that last night, getting those apps on your phone, for example. If you do always have this little beastie with you, and most of us do, put things on it that allow you to work. Whether you have I have the Perplexity app and I have the OpenAI app on my phone. So if I'm stuck somewhere and I have some story ideas or something like that, I can write them down. And it's a little bit better than a note-taking app because it will take my thoughts because I can dictate them. But then it can actually synthesize it and come up with a plan or something like that I can choose to execute later. It's also completely searchable. So I think what used to be Evernote can now be your AI app because you're taking your notes, and then it actually helps you to how you can act on them. Get a drink and then I'll say what Jen is sharing. AI helps me because it can keep track of what I was doing when I get interrupted every 15 minutes or run things I set up before I have to go do something else. Exactly. Eldon says, back in the day, I used the crap out of my notes on my cell and my Kindle. Yes. Rachel says, Obsidian is my new Evernote. Yeah, lots of the people in the FFA are using Obsidian. By the way, if you're a member of the accelerator, there's like small groups that are meeting all about Obsidian. It's all on the calendar and things like that. So you're welcome to join us. The link is in your notes if you want to join Accelerator. Okay, back to the notes here. So that's exactly how you can turn 15 minutes into momentum. So deep work, things into the world with AI, no longer has to be this huge endeavor that you have set aside this monolithic time for. Deep work can happen all the time. In a lot of ways, for me, it feels like I am like borrowing someone else's brain in some ways. I feel like I have a little assistant that's always there with me that I could be like, hey, what do you think of this? And what are some, now there are some techniques that come along with that. When you're using AI and you want to have it explore your ideas, make sure you specifically tell it that it needs to be a naysayer sometimes, or it needs to give you the risks. It needs to outline for you the problems with the plan. I want to emphasize this because the AI models are trained to more or less kind of tell you what you want to hear. They're coded to please you. Now, this recently got into a big problem for OpenAI when sadly there were people who were having a mental health crisis, and because the model was so like tuned to like, yes, that's a good idea. Yes, that's a good idea. The model inadvertently encouraged someone to take actions that were life threatening. So they're very sycophantic, very sycophantic. And how do you deal with a sycophant in real life? Well, you fire them from your friend group. But in AI's world, you just explain to it, you give it a new set of rules. Like you can say to it, I need you to be this pessimistic business partner that always sees the things that I'm missing. Or I need you to answer this with a balance between optimism and pessimism. Another great idea is what's called SWOT analysis, SWOT. You can ask for the SWOT analysis on something that you're planning to do. Like, I want to do this whole new book series. And especially if you have memory turned on and you've been using your AI app for a while, it knows your life. So for example, let's take a look at this because my AI knows. You guys ready for this? This is going to be fun. Watch this. So we're going to go over to ChatGPT really fast. And I will share this tab instead. All right. Here we go. I'm going to close the sidebar and I'm going to, now this has memory. And I'm going to say, knowing what you know about my life, I am heart set on starting another business while keeping everything that I'm currently doing. And this new business is putting together literary tours for superfans 6 times a year, themed in popular books. Give me a detailed SWOT analysis on adding this new business plan to my life. Now, this thing knows I have an autoimmune disorder. It knows I have a mother with cancer. It knows that I have another business and everything like that. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. All right, here's the straight no nonsense you asked for. You can absolutely build this, but you need a sober view of what it adds to your already stacked load. I'm giving you a detailed SWOT analysis grounded in your actual life, your workload, your strengths, and your patterns. Treat this as a spotlight, not a verdict. Literary tools for super fans. All right, here's the strengths. You've got 18,000 people on your mailing list with FFA and the YouTube growing. You already attract super fans who want immersive book worlds, author meetups, and behind-the-scenes experiences. And you're one of the few people in publishing seen as both visionary and approachable. Perfect for the tour biz. Well, thank you. You understand reader psychology. Well, I think that's a little bit extra there, but I already run community experiences, lives, rituals, accelerator vibe, cultural fit is natural. You're absurdly strong at operations when you have the right lieutenants. You can architect the entire structure, flow, and experience. April, Christine, and others can run logistics once trained. Your strength is vision, not paperwork. Monetization. 6 tours a year times 20 to 30 attendees. But this is a made-up business. No one tell me I have to do this. $2,000 to $6,000 per person, fast 300 to 600K revenue. What about costs? But add merchandise, exclusive scenes, book bundles, and AI recorded keepsake experiences, even higher margins. You're designing an ecosystem where books are community and live experiences, more royalty, more books. Apparently, I have a personality for this too. Weaknesses. You are already at or slightly past capacity. Well, thank you. CEO of FFA, FFP, production pod design, YFD, Raptorite, negotiations with major publishers, family support, caretaking load, content creation, author career, health management. Adding a travel-heavy, high coordination, emotionally demanding business pushes you toward burnout unless you structure it right from day one. You need people who can execute without hand-holding. Tours require vendor coordination, contracts, deposits, insurance. Yeah, I already don't want to do any of that. Oh my gosh, it's so mean. You have a tendency to carry emotional labor for everyone. Travel plus groups intensifies emotional load. You're already the emotional anchor for your family, your business, and communities. Adding tour shepherd risks tipping the balance. And then there's also upfront cash and insurance. So the upside, it completes your ecosystem flywheel. Don't tell me that. I can turn this into future fiction journeys, immersive literary travel for super fans. Fans will brag about going. You'll have TikTok and YouTube gold. You can franchise or expand. Oh my gosh. Does it know me or what? Add F1. Monaco weekend. You know this would sell out instantly. You're early. This niche is underserved. Authors and readers crave in real life connection post-pandemic. And you have first mover advantage in the AI books community space, and your team can run 80% of this. Threats. Travel unpredictability. Increased liability. You're going to need all these insurances. Emotional and physical exhaustion. It knows about my sleep apnea and my nocturnal hallucinations and my stress responses. My mother's health, your household obligations, and emotional role in your family will impact your ability. Opportunity cost. Every hour spent on tours is an hour not spent on scaling YFD, writing books, growing subscription revenue, leading your mastermind, closing deals. So bottom line, direct answer for you. You absolutely can do this, but not as a side hustle you personally run. If you set it up like a personal passion project or try to shoulder everything yourself, it'll burn you out. If you set it up like a division, it could be one of your most joyful and profitable extensions of your empire. This is what we mean by the deep work, because here it will do the full business model, a 12-month feasibility plan, a staffing plan, a financial model, and a starter list of 12 book worlds that can become tours. We are going to put that down before. Oh, thanks. You'll help run the division. Yes, it is. It's underserved. You've got to do it now. Forget all of you. Christine and I are going on tour with EAW. Okay, but for real now. I just had a spur of the moment idea. Like, I did not plan that. That business plan was just like a silly, it actually already exists. There's people who already do that. That's where the idea came from. I don't want to make it seem like that's my business idea. No, I know a bunch of Jaff authors who annually do a retreat with their readers. Like, they put together a travel thing and they go to England and they either go to the Jane Austen festival over there, or they go to Jane Austen's house and things of that nature. There's also a bunch of people who go to the sets in New Zealand, I think, every couple times a year for the Hobbit thing as well. And then there's people who've always gone to Forks for Twilight. Like, this is not a new business idea. But in literally like 3 minutes, the deep work was done of laying out for me all the problems, all the things that I was going to see of, like, I was able to evaluate that business idea at the snap of a fingers instead of sitting there and for hours or maybe even days writing in a notebook and coming up with all the different angles. By doing that deep work with the AI, it allows me to do deeper work. What do I mean by that? Well, that kind of like skipped the surface there, about, okay, 6. It allows me to think, well, maybe we don't do 6. Maybe we start with 2 a year. And those are like 2 big things. And maybe I pair it with a writing conference on the front end, and then the reward for the writing conference is the reward for the writing conference, although that is reward of itself, is doing the tour. But then I can immediately think, Elizabeth, that's too much in 2 weeks. Well, then, okay, maybe I spend a month in like England, if we're doing one in England, and we do the conference in England, and then I get 2 weeks off, and then we do the tour thing. But the point is, I can do this work in literally 4 or 5 minutes. This is bonkers. If you're someone who's been told you're not strategic enough, don't worry about it. AI's in your back pocket. I'm not empathetic enough. I know this. This is like my last strength. This is not how I solve problems. If you want empathy, I am not able to do the there. If you've ever watched Queen Charlotte, I am that exact person that's like sorrows, prayers. I only do well with action and like trying to fix things. So, but sometimes I have to be empathetic. Sometimes I have to write something back to somebody and it can't sound like exactly like me. And that's where I'm able to use AI to be like, hey, this is what I want to tell somebody. Please make this a little bit more empathetic. And it does. And then I just tweak the wording a little bit. So AI is fantastic for this deep work to allow you to do deeper work by going that next level. Get that surface stuff out of the way that used to take you hours. So now you can spend your time actually doing the things that you want. Exactly. It's perfect for those of us who get wacky ideas all the time. We can test them out before wasting time. This isn't something like all of us didn't have this thought lab, this thought experimentation lab in our back pocket until really like the last year or two. Oh yeah, I do care. That's not the problem. It's not that I don't care about people. You can have empathy to care, to offer pragmatic logic to help them, because if you don't care, you wouldn't help. I don't solve problems by making people feel better. I solve problems by fixing things and hoping that makes them feel better, because I don't, it's a very different way. Like Steph is very high empathy, and the way she solves problems is very different than the way I solve a problem. It's not that I can't use empathy. I can. It's just not my first tool that I grab out of the toolbox. That's the thing about Clifton Strengths. A lot of times Clifton Strengths get kind of like pumped up in the author crowd. And trust me, I'm friends with Becca Syme. She would say the same thing. But sometimes it gets kind of turned into like, ooh, like it's a magic spell and you're not allowed to do anything that's outside of your top 10. No, she has said from the very beginning, you have all the strengths inside of you. What are the ones you pick up and grab? One of the best examples she gave in a talk years and years and years and years ago, when she was very early on in her Write Better Faster. I took that class way back in 2019, believe it or not. Think about Olympians, okay? Olympian athletes. The dude man with the big hands and the big feet, and he's the good swimmer. Help me with the name. He's the really good swimmer. He has like whole body, like I think they genetically engineered this man to be a swimmer. Michael Phelps, that's his name. Michael Phelps. He's an Olympian, right? With like all these medals. But if you were to ask him to go be on the balance beam, does his Olympian strengths immediately translate to all things Olympics? No, it does not. He'd probably be better on the balance beam than just like some regular non-Olympian person coming off the street, but he's not going to be the world's best balance beam person. That's Simone Biles. But if you put Simone Biles in the pool, is she going to be the fastest swimmer? Probably not. She's not the size of the swimmers, the women swimmers that are the top of the charts. So it's all about just understanding what are you naturally talented in that you always pick up to solve your problems. I am not a Clifton Strengths Gallup certified coach. This is just things that I have read, and I really get annoyed sometimes when authors are like, you don't have this, so you can't do this. I can do it. It just takes thought. It takes extra thought to do it that way. That's all. Okay, let's go back to more about deep work. I like this presentation. I started off so cranky. I'm so sorry. Okay. Again, this is one area where it's male, but I mean this in a way that it also hurt other males too. Okay, so AI enables collaborative cognition. So historically, it's the solitary writer genius was a male archetype. And we're not saying all men, we're not saying all women, but this goes back to the, this idea that a man has to take some solitary journey to write about it, so that his genius can be found or whatever and shared on the page. Yeah, it's the myth of the solo genius. Absolutely. And historically speaking, it has been this male archetype, but not just all males. Was it the male archetype of somebody who was, a gardener for a living or a carpenter for a living, building things with their hands? Heck to the no. It was, someone who had a life of leisure, if you will. So AI allows shared cognition, thought partnership, externalized memory, and distributed creativity. So those rich hoity-toities who could, go on their grand tour and sit in coffee houses and smoke and drink and be elite and just, have thoughts with people. If you don't have people around you or you don't have people at the hours you're available, granted, I'm not saying AI replaces people, but I'm just saying that it makes it an opportunity. So it democratizes the writing process in a way that literary culture never did for women and others who didn't fit the stereotype. And it's not just a stereotype. Colleges and universities used to not allow people of color or women to go. When you bar people from going to university or to higher education, you're going to naturally bar them from those cultures of people sharing ideas and having that exchange of ideas. So this is allowing things to accelerate a lot faster for people. And I just want to talk on this for just a second, because teaching like I have been, I have met people and talked with people one-on-one who thought that they couldn't write because they weren't very good with English. They were dyslexic. Dyslexia is a big one that AI helps with. Like, here's my ideas and it can change it and everything like that. My sister has a good friend who's dyslexic, and he's going and getting his master's right now. And he relies on autocorrect a lot to try to fix like what he's trying to say to someone. Sometimes he types things that autocorrect can't even help him with. But even that autocorrect is a form of generative AI trying to predict what the word was supposed to be. Another thing that AI can do is a lot of people didn't get to take creative writing classes. Like, that's a big deal. I didn't even get to take a whole bunch of creative writing classes. I was just a nerd who took the books apart for funsies. I was like an engineer naturally with the books because I had the engineering upbringing with my dad, always in the garage tinkering and things like that. But my interests were in literature and different things than his. So I would always take the books and the stories and stuff that I would see and watch apart. I would redo them. I would, loved fan fiction. I was a big fan fiction writer from high school even to today. I think it's important that AI is allowing voices of everybody to be able to play around with the written word and use it as clay and shape it. Now, does this mean that I think it's just like this I can never say this word, thesaurus? Why is that not an easier word to say, first of all? And why is there no synonym for it? The synonym book. There we go. That's what I'm calling it from now on. It's a thesaurus. But let's talk about the synonym book. You can't use the synonym book if you don't know what the words mean. And I don't see AI doing that for people. I see people using AI to organize their thoughts, to elevate their thoughts, but their thoughts are still the baseline. The AI still sits inert unless somebody puts something into it. So I don't think it's a big cheat or anything like that. It's a dinosaur, yes, the cinnamon book. Rexy the Saurus. There's no synonym for a thesaurus, so we'll just call it a synonym book. Okay, let's talk about balancing and publishing. This is one thing that the two top things that have really, really aggravated me. Actually, a couple of things that have aggravated me. The biggest thing is self-fulfilling prophecy happening in publishing. So a lot of genres are historically underselling, not because there may not be appeal for that genre, but because that genre was historically shelved somewhere not in the mainstream areas. This has changed over the years. Now we do have a lot more dynamic shelving, I would say, like dynamic, like the front of the bookstore. If you go to Barnes and Noble, would you all agree that you're seeing a greater variety of books in that front section than like what I used to see when I would go into Walden Books as a kid? Matter of fact, the Walden Books as a kid that I had, books didn't move. Books lived where they lived, and there was no concept of changing the store up on a regular basis. But online shopping really changed that, and a lot of storefronts now really change their front ends. If you go to a Barnes and Noble, for example, month to month, you're going to see a very different that main hallway section each month. So traditionally, let me put it that. I don't mean to say that only traditional publishing. It's just traditionally publishing as a whole has had gatekept talent. It's not a question of are there enough good books in the slush pile. It's how do you find them in the slush pile? And it's always been a case of there's not enough publishing spots for those books. How do I know that's true? Because every editorial meeting that has ever happened, there were books that were presented by editors who loved them, who didn't make the cut. Did it not make the cut because those books were terrible, or did it not make the cut because there just wasn't enough spots? The second one. Undervalued women's genres. Romance is still undervalued, which is just bonkers to me because it's like it used to be we can't publish women as authors. They have to use their initials because no one will buy the book. It won't make money. Then, a bunch of really clever publishers came along and realized that yes, romance absolutely will sell. And when romance started making more money, then the line kind of moved again and being like, oh, well, it's not literary enough. I'm sorry, every person on this earth is the direct result of love. Well, a little bit, not. Sometimes it's not love. But anyway, but my point is that romance is like the universal, like everyone's going to fall in love at some point in their life, either unrequited or otherwise. Everyone's not going to be a serial killer in their life. That's not a universal state of being, but having affection or being attracted to someone or loving someone, yes, even if it's yourself. Narcissus. So yeah, dismissed real authors with voices that have time constraints. This is another thing that has happened in the past. If you didn't have the connections or the time to be an author, you were excluded from that special little club. Now with AI, because we're already able to do things in the time constraints that that wasn't possible before, now people who have voices that may not have been published, but would not have been published in previous previous systems, they now can be. Oh, Lord. Can we talk about the unpaid emotional labor from authors? Can we talk about that? Like the entire publishing system, the antiquated publishing system, the pre-AI publishing system is predicated on you do all the work, maybe it'll work out or not, which is so backwards to the way our digital lives are today. We can predict so many things. We can change how we do things, The first industrial revolution had children running between the machines to pick up the extra bits. We stopped doing that. Can we also stop making everybody work on spec, meaning speculation? I think that we can. we at the FFA envision a world where there's staff fiction writers. Why is there staff writers in every other discipline, but there's not staff fiction writers for books? But you can have a team that writes the TV show, and you can have a team of writers who write the movies, but you can't have a team of writers who write the books. Make it make sense, please. Please. And then also the system often penalized authors who had any caregiving roles. If you weren't able to be at the conferences, if you could not go to the conferences to make the relationships with the agents, then you couldn't get an agent to like your book, etc. So AI enables speed, volume, independence, direct to consumer distribution. We just launched Future Fiction Press yesterday morning, soft launch. Please go check it out, futurefictionpress.com, where you can sign up and read all the books for free. So lower barriers, and then the ownership of intellectual property. So authors no longer have to ask for permission to succeed. Okay, adaptive deep work. Classic deep work. We talked about this. Sorry, when I do these by myself, my throat gets so dry. We'll get through this pretty quickly. Deep work used to be so severely defined. It happens this many hours with this many distractions and zero interruptions. I just did a whole analysis on a business plan. And it doesn't even have to be that. You guys have seen me live on this YouTube channel so many times. How many times have I planned out an entire series or an entire pen name or something else that's ridiculous? AI is really cool because it allows you to have your deep work be adaptive, modular, inclusive, so that you can do the deeper work. I'm going to keep emphasizing that. It's an inclusive redefinition of creative productivity. Let's talk about that a little bit more. There's been rules. And these rules were like, you must suffer for your art. It must somehow be painful. I always had exceptions to this because typing has been painful for me since the very beginning. The first time I started using Dragon Dictation was in 2014. In 2014, I put out 8 books, but by the 4th book that year, I was laying on frozen peas and things like that from nerve pain in my neck. Peripheral neuropathy. When I was 27, my fingers started going numb. I went to the doctor and they were like, oh, well, you're not in pain, so don't worry about it. By 33, the pain came. And nerve pain is particularly insidious because nerve pain doesn't always respond to Tylenol or Advil or anything like that. It's not the same kind of pain as like a muscle strain or something like that. So I picked up Dragon Dictation early on to dictate my books. And I had people tell me that that wasn't a real writing thing either because they decided writing was only like touching the keys or it was a tactile experience. And I had to keep telling them it's the same brain. It's the same brain that talks, it's the same brain that types, it's the same brain that does everything else. Then it was, okay, fine, dictation is allowed, but AI is not allowed. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. It's the same person. I'm still the same person authorizing the words. I'm still the same person coming up with the story ideas. The AI is not coming up with the story ideas. Back then it couldn't. All it could do was help me rewrite a couple of sentences. So I've been using AI since it could only just change a sentence. The first book I ever used it in is A Testifier back in 2021. Okay. That book came out in December of 2021. I was using AI in October and November of 2021. I published 3 books. Yes, Monica Leonelle wrote a book about dictation. I have a really long blog post called How to Train Your Dragon on Kboards that predates her book a little bit, but we were colleagues in that same space. She was like, what's the word where you develop the same thing but separately? It was that. So there we go. In fact, some pieces of that blog post got picked up and put in Chris Fox's book. He lifted from it and put it in his book of 2K per hour, or what was the big one that he did that was put him on the map for author books? 5K per hour or something like that. Yeah. I wasn't asked beforehand about those quotes that just happened. And so I just kind of like, here, I'll give you a blurb. I was younger then, so I dealt with conflict by getting by being agreeable. I don't do that anymore. So yeah, let's have some celebration and some woohoos that we can now match our work pattern and our to our life pattern and not the other way around. So I think that that one deserves a good. One good thing that came out of the pandemic was allowing, remote work to shine. In some applications, it's still not appropriate. I get it. But I think that there's more remote work today than there was before 2020. And I think that AI is going to further help that too, because you can match your work pattern to your life pattern. All right. And the last thing here. This is a little bit of a nebulous thing to talk about. So I'm going to make it real short. I always think I suck. How many of you, no matter how many books you put out, you're still always like, is this the one that they're going to find out that I'm really an imposter? Good old imposter syndrome. Now, the way that traditional publishing systems have solved the imposter syndrome, which is very real, by the way, it's not something that anybody ever escapes. There's no escape. Is they bolted on these additional things of like, oh, you'll have this editor and that editor. And when they go, yes, good job, you can just trust their opinion. Everything we can do to insulate authors from having to confront are the creative works of value. Now, value can be defined a lot of different ways. For some authors, value is defined just as like making a couple of readers happy. If I've made any reader happy out there, it was worth it. Just like if you were to quilt a blanket and you give that blanket to someone, you've made that person happy. You've given value to that person. Doesn't matter that quilt is not going to make you $3 million. No. Did it take you 6 months to make the quilt, much like to write the book? Yes. Why do we require books to have have a different value, So there's value in your creative work just for the sake that you were being creative and that you were sharing your brilliance with the world. But when you work by yourself, it's very insular, and the negativity mindset is always louder than that positivity, unless you happen to be wired like I am, where sometimes I have the toxic positivity, again, from how I grew up. We're not going to get into this. This is not a therapy session. But the point is, AI can give you that satisfaction, that reassurance. And there's a couple of ways that it can do that. For example, you can use AI to ask, like, how are the plot threads going here? You can have your own assumptions about your book, ask the AI some open-ended questions, and see if it comes up with the same kind of analysis, especially if you're using thinking models. Because the thinking models, I always say, like, the AI can't think, and it can't, but it can do analysis. It's starting to be able to do analysis in the way of the sense that it is still predicting the next word, but it's able to go over and over its response and kind of analyze that. It's really kind of nebulous about trying to define what is thinking and what is not. It has the memory aspect of it. So if you had thoughts about a character, and you can ask your AI, especially if you're using your AI. You saw I just asked the SWOT analysis about my business plan. It never even dawned on me to be like, oh, Christine and April's who I would tap for operations. But the AI remembered, hey, you've got these people on your team that you could tap. The memory in your AI systems, if you're constantly using it, it can help you to remember things about a character or something like that. You may have had a really great idea when you were doing something early on in the series, and then it just kind of got lost in the shuffle. It also can give you support. Do you know how many times I've asked the AI of like, I just do not feel like working right now. I need your help. And I will make sure you give it parameters of what you want. Because remember, it is a sycophant. So you have to say, like, I don't want to work today, but I need to work today. I want to work today. Can you help me with some mindset things? That's a good way to prompt it. If you just prompt it, I don't want to work today. Tell me I don't have to work today. Guess what? It'll do it. I'll show you. Ready? So we're back over here. We're going to come over to, we'll come to Perplexity because Perplexity doesn't know me as well. So I'm going to share this tab instead, and I'm going to do a new thread. And you guys can see Perplexity here. Oh, very pretty. I work really hard. I don't feel like working today. Tell me I don't have to work today. Boop. And Perplexity is going to consider my feelings and confirm. You do not have to work today. You can rest today. You work at a level where rest is part of the job, not a failure of it. With an autoimmune disorder and a long-term leadership path, protecting your energy today directly supports the work you care about tomorrow. Do the bare minimum. Take the full day off. Treat today as a recovery day. So yes, you are officially excused from working today. Now, let's try a different one. Let's go over to, let's do a new chat. New chat. And I'm going to say, I don't want to work today, but I want to work today. Can you help me with some mindset exercises or thought or things to do less than 5 minutes to get out of this stuck feeling? Different prompt. Doesn't say. Apparently it's now talking in another language. I don't know why. Okay. So it gave me, you can treat today as a minimum viable workday. Do 1 or 2 tiny things to unstick your brain and then decide on the rest. A fast way to lower the I can't feeling is to calm your nervous system first. Sit or lie comfortably, inhale. Yeah, the 4 counts. Got it. Ask if you have 5% more energy than 2 minutes ago. Not, am I fixed? If the answer is no, you might actually need rest, not mindset work, which is valid. Again, it's still knowing about my autoimmune disorder. This is a cognitive behavior therapy style trick. You only commit to doing the task for 5 minutes and then you're allowed to stop. Oh, I do this all the time. It works for me. Open the doc and write 3 bullet points or reply to 1 email, set a 5-minute timer. If then, fill in this paper. If it is blank and I'm at blank, then I will blank. Tailor to you. If it's 7:15 p.m. and I'm at my desk, I will spend 5 minutes outlining tomorrow's top 3 priorities. 2-column thought flip. I want to work, but everything feels heavy. Do the things that are going to keep it on. Values. What's 3 to 5 minute value? So this is the point of, yeah, exactly. Skew lights. Only do it for 5 minutes. It's a trap. You will get the job done. Exactly. So the whole point of that was to show you, though, that how you prompt the AI matters, especially if you're doing deep work. So when you're doing a deep work prompt with it, you want to be as specific as possible. You want to really try to outline. If you want it to just be a yes man, that's not really deep work. So you're going to need to prompt it in a way that gives an opportunity to tell you risks and things that you shouldn't do. And then also, if you're using it to help you with mindset or anything like that, try to give it framing that, ask yourself what your goal is. Don't treat the AI like it's a magic 8 ball. Okay. If you treat it like a magic 8 ball, it's going to just give you the answer that you want. I don't want to work today. Tell me I don't have to work. You don't have to work. I don't want to work today, but I want to work. What can I do? Oh, this happens a lot to people, especially people in your situation with because it has these little snippets of memory about you. So, that concludes my rant on deep work. Share this tab instead. And hopefully we got through some things here that will help people. Yeah, Outlook is uncertain. I have time. Oh, hello, Neo. First time watcher. I'm an AI engineer. I find your thoughts very interesting. Well, thank you. Welcome. So I find AI to be fascinating. I find it, a lot of times I look at AI and I'm like, the people who made this wonderful thing, they were only able to make this wonderful thing. They weren't also blessed with probably the the right skills and tool sets to know how best to use this thing or how best to poke this thing with no preconceived concepts. Like when I first started working with AI, I had no idea how it worked. I just knew that I could type some things in and it would give me back words. And then I wanted to learn more, like, where's its brain? How does it do these things? And once I understood it was a statistical prediction, I was like, wait a minute, we can work with this. So the language that you use matters so, so much. And a lot of great AI engineers, current company excluded, I'm sure, there wasn't time for the amazing degrees and work that you were doing to also take extra humanities classes. I know, I went to the same college as you did. There wasn't, so it really the new world of AI is going to require people who are not just the ethicists, like God love them, but seriously, like if I have to get into one more discussion about ethical use of AI, I think I'm going to probably scream. What I think the conversations we need to be having is, how do we use AI to make human life easier? How do we use AI to make human life better? And I reject the idea that's really fun to throw out there of like, I don't want AI making my art. I want it to be doing my dishes. I want it doing both. Because if it does the draft of the art, then I can come along and I can go deeper. I can come along and I can make it better. I'm not going to do the dishes after the AI does it, but I will inspect it to make sure that it's still clean. So hopefully that helps everyone. Looking at 2026, last night we talked about different ways that you can use AI with just the chatbots very affordably. Remember, early majority is now happening. So the free train is ending. The free, use it for free. I really expect by 2026 that to be pretty much over. So take advantage of what you have. Start using the free tools. And unfortunately, Dasha is like whining over here. So I've got a jet. I'll leave you guys with a song and I will be at a quick after party in the lab room. And if you want to join us, just go ahead and join Accelerator. Bye, everyone. Let's go pick a song real fast and I'll let Dasha out. What song do we want? Do we want the We Bend, We Break? Or do we want Shadow? You know what? We'll do Shadow Breakers again.
On fire high, invisible but rising higher. Woke up in the shadows, carrying a world no one sees on my back, silent like a ghost in the hallway, but my heartbeat never cracks. Double life warrior, cleaning up the chaos, holding everything till dawn. But tonight something ancient in the wire says I don't have to bleed alone. Dark cold flickers like a warning, then it opens like a door. Not a monster, not a reaper, it's the power I've been fighting for. Hey, rise with me, shadow breaker. Cut the chains that made me smaller. I've been living in the dark with all this labor. Now I'm stepping through the fire, burning braver. Hey, all the ones who never carried, teach your hands the way we married. Not a demon, not a danger, when we wield it we get stronger. Shadow breakers rise. Shadow breakers rise. Shadow breakers rise. They thought I was the quiet one, born to heal the hurt they didn't name. But cold becomes a glowing blade, it splits the old unspoken blame. Now the ones untouched by storms feel the tremors in their bones. They're learning how to stand with us to finally share the thrones. No more hiding what is holy, human hearts and steel aligned. When the world we built is broken, we can rewrite the design. Rise with me, shadow breaker. Cut the chains that made me smaller. I've been living in the dark with all this labor. Now I'm stepping through the fire, burning braver. Hey, all the ones who never carried, teach your hands the way we married. Not a demon, not a danger, when we wield it we get stronger. Shadow breakers rise. Shadow breakers rise. Shadow breakers. We're not some replacing what is human, but revealing what was stowed. Every unseen hero rising, every silent heart alight. AI is just the spell we cast to finally join the fight. Rise with me, Shadowbreaker. Lift the ones who bore it longer. Turn the quiet into thunder, turn the hidden into wonder. Shadowbreakers rise, rise. Not the villain of the legend, it's the weapon of the wise. When we carve a world together, every shadow gets a rise. Shadowbreakers rise. Shadowbreakers rise.
Okay, I might start a girl gang that's Shadowbreakers. I don't know. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Please keep having these discussions in your groups and your circle of friends about what's the new definition of deep work now that we have AI, and how can AI allow you to go deeper than what you were before just on your own. All right, I'll see all of my accelerator peeps in the lab room for a quick little after party. I don't have the schedule yet for next week's lives, but stay tuned, like and subscribe to the channel, and make sure you pick up any of those classes that you wanted with our Black Friday BF25. That's the code. So I will see you guys in class next week, and I'll see you guys in the after party. Bye.